So Holy Tuesday sealed Jesus' fate. As we see in the scriptures, he not only enters the temple on Sunday, Palm Sunday, he enters the city, enters the temple, and things kind of progress. But on Tuesday, he begins to preach to the crowds. And he begins the day actually by cursing a fig tree as he is entering into Jerusalem. He's hungry, he goes to this tree, it's not bearing fruit, and so he curses it, okay? And his disciples are wondering what the heck is wrong with Jesus? Why did he do this? And why was he able to do it? And Jesus says, hey, through prayer, you can do more powerful things. You can actually move mountains. And he goes on to go to the temple courts and he begins to teach everybody. And in this teaching, he kind of really shuts down a lot of the religious leaders. He shuts down the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes. And that's why Tuesday sealed his fate. That's why after Tuesday night comes around and all the religious leaders are now united against Jesus as he teaches about them. And he teaches through not only through direct woes and condemns their hypocrisy, but he teaches about them through different parables. And so he doesn't just teach the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees, he also teaches the people about who God is and what he has done. And we kind of see these three takeaways from Holy Tuesday as we see that Jesus is calling us to be real. We see Jesus is calling us to be repentant, and then we see Jesus is calling us to be ready as kind of the last part of Tuesday. As they're leaving the temple after Jesus has condemned all these leaders, he essentially, his disciples say, hey, look at the beautiful temple, Jesus, isn't it amazing, the temple of God? And Jesus looks at the temple and says, hey, there's coming a day where not one stone will be left, that this whole temple will be destroyed, which leads to this end times conversation where Jesus is asked by his disciples privately, hey, what are the signs of the end age? When are you coming back? When are you going to make all things right? And Jesus kind of launches into this great discourse about the end of the world. And he says, hey, false Christs are going to come. The people are going to say, well, he's out in the wilderness or he's in this building. And he says, don't believe them. He says that there's going to be an abomination of desolation like in Daniel. And a lot of people believe that had already been fulfilled by Antiochus IV, this king that had slaughtered a pig in the temple. But Jesus says, hey, there's coming another Antichrist who's going to be an abomination in that place. The sun is going to turn to darkness and the moon to blood, and all these the stars are going to fall, and there's going to be wars and famines and all of these things. And Jesus kind of points forward to the end, but he says, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, no angels know, only the Father knows, so be ready. Always be ready for the end. Just like a home, he doesn't know when the thief is going to break in, so he needs to constantly be vigilant, and so do we in being ready for Christ's return. And it's in this on this day that Jesus stops preaching to the crowds and now he turns towards his disciples. He's not going to engage the crowd again. As we know, he's going to be teaching his disciples privately before he dies on Good Friday. And so, like I said, there's a couple just takeaways that we need to be ready. That Christ is going to come back and we have to be ready for him. We need to be loving and serving, because he says on Tuesday there's a day of judgment coming where he's going to separate the people out between those who have served him, loved him through caring for people and his church, and those who have not cared for people and his church, and those will be sent into hell. The fire of hell is what he says. We need to be repentant. The Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees, they were not repentant. They didn't care about what was inside of them. They didn't really care about God. They cared about how they looked and what they gained. And Jesus condemns them for their hypocrisy, calling them whitewashed tombs and all these other things. And lastly, we need to be real. We need to be authentic. We need to be who we are, who God made us to be, and not be these fake people. And so on Tuesday, Jesus gets us ready for Friday. He turns away from the crowds and turns to his disciples. And he kind of bookends the end of that day with talking about the fig tree again, saying, hey, the fig tree, the reason I cursed it is because I was here and it wasn't ready for me. So let's not be those people.